An article released by Politico a few days ago came out exposing a bunch of young Republicans in a Telegram group chat. Somebody in the group chat screenshot essentially thousands of messages where the people were saying stuff like, great, I love Hitler, when do we start bullying, referring to black people as watermelon people, and all these other things. And of course, this stuff's gone viral to the point to where a lot of people have had reactions to it, a lot of different reactions. Even the vice president, J.D. Vance, commented on it, and everybody has their own reasoning for it. And I'm here to say that I don't care. I don't care that these messages got leaked. I don't care that this group chat got exposed on the internet. I don't, and I'm going to explain why. And I just want you to know before we get into this, I'm going to say a lot of things in this video that are probably going to be very offensive to a lot of people. A lot of people are going to disagree and not like what I have to say, and that's including people who are subscribed to this channel. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time before we do this because I expect a lot of you to disagree. I even expect maybe some of you to unsubscribe from my channel. I'm letting you know I'm going to be playing devil's advocate on a lot of different things, and you'll understand what those things are by the end of the video. So if you do have disagreements, all I ask is that you hear me out, you listen to what I have to say, and, make up your mind. That's all anybody can really do with any of this stuff. But the reasoning that a lot of conservatives and Republicans are having different reactions to this is you have some that don't care about the group chat leaks because they said, well, think about what left-leaning group chats are like. Think about people who celebrated, when Charlie died, or think about this, or think about that. I don't care what a bunch of people say in a group chat that's private. Even the article that came out talks about how the majority of the messages were just jokes. They're just very edgy jokes. And a lot of Republicans are disavowing them. There's a bunch of young Republican groups coming out disavowing these guys, saying we would never support these people. We would never unite with these types of people, these far-right neo-Nazi kids in this group chat. We do not like them. They're not true Republicans. And I'm going to talk about that. But I'm also here to mainly talk about and address to all the conservatives and even liberals, because there are liberals who have conservative kids. That is a thing. And they saw this and they had reactions to it too. They're probably wondering, does my son think like this? Does he have a group chat like this? Does he say things like this? I hope not. And I'm here to tell you, if you're one of those people, whether you're conservative or liberal, and you're just thinking, how? After everything that's happened, how is it okay for all these young kids to even think it's funny to say something like, I love Hitler? Why is it okay to joke about? Why is it okay to support that? And I'm also here to say that it's not always jokes. I can guarantee you, as someone who's a part of Gen Z, 100%, Gen Z as a whole likes Hitler more than like any other generation. And I'm going to explain why, because it's pretty important. Because a lot of people are freaking out that we would even joke about this stuff, joke about actually liking him. They're freaking out because they're like, that can't be my son. And for me to explain it in the best way that I can, there was actually a video someone sent me on Instagram. And this video, it was from this creator. It was either a political streamer or something. I don't know his name, and I don't know the quote perfectly. I'm going to be paraphrasing it. But if you know who I'm talking about, please comment below who this guy is, because it was a pretty good take, but it wasn't on this subject. This was from like weeks ago. But it applies to this. And I think it's one of the best ways to explain why Gen Z in general likes Hitler more. Because it's not just jokes. I'm being honest with you. Because a lot of older people seem to struggle with this, and I think it's important to tell them why. And what this guy said in this video is he said, and I'm paraphrasing, right? He said something like, as Americans, we live in a country that is a fuck Hitler society. And what does that mean? Fuck Hitler society means you're raised in a country where from the very earliest stages possible, you're taught about World War II. You're taught about Hitler and Nazis being evil and bad, and we were the good guys. You're never taught about the nuances of World War II. You're never taught about different sides or perspectives. You're always shown one side, and that we were unapologetically the good guys throughout World War II. Even though they'll tell you about how we were doing shady stuff before that, they won't tell you everything. As a result, you're raised in a society where you're taught in school and through history and education and all this stuff that Hitler's evil. And you watch movies, and there's 100,000 movies coming out every 10 seconds about how Nazis were bad. In every video game you can think of, Nazis are evil and bad. And you're just basically hammered with this over and over and over in this fuck Hitler society that Hitler was bad. And you have to think, what does a generation that's raised like that do when they grow up and they start paying attention to things? They start reading between the lines. They start looking at what kind of country do we have? What does a fuck Hitler country, a fuck Hitler society lead to? I'll tell you what it leads to. A fuck Hitler society leads to a country where people accept and endorse transgenderism. Parents all over this country love and celebrate them mutilating their own children's genitals and putting them on puberty blockers. A fuck Hitler society leads to a country where over 37 million people are on antidepressants and almost 50,000 people a year kill themselves. A fuck Hitler society leads to where when your daughter turns 18, she gets celebrated for making an OnlyFans. It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism. And to anybody who would say, America doesn't love communism, we actually don't like communists because of the Red Scare, then why is it in every single university? Why is it that every single school has some teacher that hates capitalism and loves communism? And I'm not just talking about a university either. I'm talking about the rural high school you send your children to. I guarantee you there's a teacher there that is a communist, that's filling your kid's head up with some communist shit. That's what a fuck Hitler society leads to. A fuck Hitler society leads to a society where there is no future for its children. There is no social security. There is no job market. We have no money. We're in debt. A fuck Hitler society is a society where foreign adversaries and fifth column people in our own government take control and lobby us for other countries. A fuck Hitler society is a country where we send our own children to die. For what? For oil? For regime change? For all these other things? A fuck Hitler society is a society where we celebrate abortion. We love and celebrate abortion to the point to where we found out recently that my generation, 30% of Gen Z was aborted. A fuck Hitler society is a society where people destroy our own monuments. Our cities are trashed and smell like shit. Your daughter can't even go out without being raped or stabbed. Your son gets shot in the neck, and half the country celebrates. A fuck Hitler society is a society where all these people come out and say, well, we're a melting pot, and I don't see race. Race doesn't matter. Tribalism doesn't matter. That's not important. And yet, there's still more people today that are more actually racist and hate you because of the color of your skin than ever before. A fuck Hitler society is a society that is suicidal and is literally on a death spiral to total destruction. And I could go on for literally hours. I have a million reasons. I have a million points. But what I'm basically saying is, what Gen Z has done is they've grown up in a place where the people who are calling them Nazis and saying that they're toxic and they're evil are the same people that want to cut their kids' dicks off, and they look at a bunch of people setting their city on fire and beating the shit out of people as peacefully protesting, and they think it's okay if a bunch of illegals come into this country and take your jobs, as long as they're taking them from white people. The people who think that and say that, those are the people who are calling your sons Nazis when they disagree. So it causes all these younger people to think, if all these people who are saying Nazis are evil and Hitler's bad, and these are the people who want me to die, and they want my country to look like shit and smell like shit and be unsafe and me not to have a future, then how bad can Hitler really be? And anytime anyone actually has a logical question to ask their parents, even their teachers, they get scolded, they get sent to detention, they get banned, they get censored. Which, just so you know, by your own logic with that type of thinking, that's going to push those people to certain parts of the internet to ask those questions, and the only people that are going to be willing to discuss those questions are people who love Hitler. So now, instead of having a debate about things or having a dialogue, you took people from hearing one extreme side, one-sided information, to the other side, where it's one-sided and extreme. And they're seeing something like, well, let me do a little bit of research into what happened before World War II. What did Hitler do for his country before the war started? What happened? And you do the smallest bit of research into it, and what do you find out? You find out that this guy took Germany when it was on the brink of total annihilation, and 1 out of 3 adults were out of work, and nobody could afford food. And the only city that had really anything going for it was a city where there was degeneracy and porn and a bunch of gay rights advocacy and transgender books and all these kid brothels and all this shit, which is actually a fact. Those were like the only cities in Germany that had anything going on for it. And he took that country and he turned it to a safe place that was clean, where people had jobs and food. They had prosperity. They had to give up a lot of rights. But I think Tucker Carlson said it best. How can you argue against somebody, a younger person who's for socialism, when you live in a capitalist society where nobody's safe and nobody has money and nobody has a future? Of course they're going to turn to socialism. Of course they're going to turn to all these different alternatives because the thing you're using doesn't work. And people look at Hitler, they look at Nazis, they look at Germany, and they see, wow, it became a police state and it got clean. And people had money and people were able to eat and be happy, and it was great, to the point to where all these other world leaders, even from English Parliament, visited before the war and said stuff like, wow, Hitler, you're such a great leader. You restored the honor to Germany. You restored its soul. All these different things. You never hear about this stuff in school, though. It's kind of funny why. And a lot of you are going to say, oh, that's not true. That's actually, no, it is. That's not even an opinion. That's literally just basic facts of what happened before. Now, I'm not condoning everything Hitler did, but like I said, I'm here to play devil's advocate. I'm here to tell you that your son is growing up in a country where it is a fuck Hitler society. And they're taking a look around. They're looking at things long term, and they're looking at things right in front of them, and they're seeing, what does that lead to? It leads to degeneracy. It leads to this sinful country where we sacrifice our own children, either by sending them to war or sending our mothers to an abortion clinic. And for what? So we can all just be on birth control and fuck more? It's like nothing good is coming out of this. Nothing fruitful is coming out of any of this. Everything is bad. And yes, America is a great country. I love America. I'm not here to black pill or doom. I'm just gonna be honest with you. America is an amazing country. We have a lot of things going for us that other countries wish they had. That's just the truth. But I'm not gonna lie. The versions of all those things that we currently have now are the worst versions. It's not like how it was 20, 30 years ago. We have the worst versions of all of those things, whether it's the economy, whether it's capitalism in general, whether it's jobs or education, whether it's medical insurance industry, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, whether it's free speech, pretty much any amendment you can think of. It's like we have the worst versions of all of it now than ever before. And so to all these people that are freaking out saying, why? How could the younger generation joke about liking Hitler? Or, like I said, how could they actually like Hitler? Because a lot of them do. Maybe because they see our society as being destroyed by the very people who say Hitler is a bad person. Because that is true. Now you could say, well, that doesn't mean Hitler was a good person. Yeah, but that's kind of the whole point, is you need to have a dialogue on that at this point. You need to debate this, but you don't. You censor people, you tell people to shut up, you throw labels on us. Conservatives do this. I've seen so much of it recently. Of conservatives labeling people, ostracizing people, trying to shut people up, saying we don't need to unite with these far-right extremists. We don't need them to win. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the reason why I'm going so hard on this is because I think I think people are missing the picture on why the younger generation, the younger far right or conservative generation feels this way. And they don't care. Even if they are joking, even if they don't like Hitler, the fact that they joke about it, why they don't care if you get mad at them. Why they don't care if you call them racist or sexist or all these different things. Because the people that have been doing that, they're the people that have failed. The past generations have failed us, and your failures have consequences. This is one of them. It's a consequence that what you think about somebody like Hitler means nothing to the next generation, whether you're conservative or liberal, and for different reasons. And I hope you can understand that, because I don't want to see any of you fuckers getting upset that, like, my grandson likes Hitler. What the fuck? What do you expect with everything that's going on? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people in the comments saying, well, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be better. We don't care. And you guys spent way too long censoring your own children, scolding your own children for having logical questions when it came to things. And not just the children, other people a part of your generation too. You're the ones who shove them into the different corners on the internet, or even just in general before the internet. You're the ones that took those people, and instead of having a dialogue and a debate with them, you yelled at them, you took them off the air, you banned their books. So what do you expect to happen? You think it was just going to disappear? No. And so all the Republicans saying shit on Twitter about how, like, I would never join forces. I would never unite with any of these neo-Nazi Gen Z conservatives. I would never. I would rather lose. I saw somebody say that. I would rather lose than join with a Nazi. I don't think that guy understands what that actually kind of means. Especially in the context of everything that's been happening, even just in this year. What does that mean? That means this dude would rather live in a country where he loses, right? A country where his daughter is going to get raped and stabbed and bleed out and die by herself on a train. A country where your son will get shot in the neck and your neighbors would celebrate. A country where people get lit on fire on the New York subway station and nobody does anything about it. They literally just record them and watch them burn to death. A country where people openly advocate for killing white people. That's what this dude's saying. He'd rather live in a country like that, a country where it smells like shit and looks like shit and there's no economic future and your college education is completely worthless and nothing has any meaning and there is no respect for God or anything holy. It's just whatever. There's so much nihilism and degeneracy. That's what this dude is saying. I don't want to team up as long as I don't team up with a Nazi. Because that's what a fuck Hitler society leads to. It leads to people saying shit like that. People coming out and saying shit like, I just can't be a Nazi. I can't be on their side. They say that as they're on their knees and somebody shoots them in the back of their head in front of their family while their house is being lit on fire. That's what these people are saying. And I understand a lot of these conservatives are paid shills. And I understand a lot of them are just bots and they're just trying to create division. But some of these people that are saying these things aren't that. Some of these people are actually very prominent figures in the conservative movement. And the reason why I'm talking so much about the conservatives when it comes to this is because the liberals obviously have their own reaction. But here's the thing about that. They have their reaction regardless. Even if these text messages didn't get released, this group chat didn't get exposed, they would still think you're a Nazi. They would still think, even if you weren't joking about this stuff, that you were still a Nazi and that you deserve to die. Do you not get that? And you don't think that liberals and far left people don't have group chats that talk about similar things? Or, dude, do you know how many young far left liberals love communism? And the idea of like the Bolsheviks revolution and all these different things, they see it as like a good thing. All these Christians dying, 60 million people being killed. Or worse yet, just Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck. You don't think there's group chats where people are celebrating that and think it's funny? And so that's why I'm not talking about the liberals. Everybody knows that. In fact, when these text messages got released, there was another person who's a liberal running for AG in Virginia where he had text messages coming out and he wasn't joking. He was being serious. And he was talking about how he wants his opponents and people who don't think the way he does on certain issues, he wants them to die and he wants their children to die. So you have a litmus test between people who say they love Hitler and people who are running for, parts of government where they say they want their opponents to be killed. And you have all these different people choosing who they get offended over and what they get offended over. I don't care what liberals think, dude. I really don't. The reason why I'm talking about conservatives is because a bunch of them just recently threw a ton of young Republicans under the bus, exposing them, denouncing them, talking about how I just can't unify with this. All these young Republican groups coming out and denouncing them from each state. The only state I saw that didn't do that was Texas. I think there was one other, but I can't remember what it is. But every other state came out and had some letter. And also, why the fuck are all these fucking young Republican groups being run by 40-year-old women? Who the fuck put those bitches in charge? But I digress. We're not talking about that, but that is something that's kind of weird. We need to unite. We need to have each other's backs. And unfortunately for you conservatives, if you want to win, if you want your way of life to be preserved, and if you want to not live in a country where people are rioting every day and crime is just completely on the loose, and have a country where there's law and order and there's actually a future, if you want that to be the case, I hate to break it to you, you're going to have to team up with the neo-Nazi far-right kid. You are. Not the accelerationists, not the extremists, not the actual racists, because those are real people. But those people don't want a prosperous society. They want society to crumble. They want shit to be lit on fire. But the people in this group chat, the people who think like this, your grandson, your son, the people who talk like this, they actually want to save this country. They want to fix this country. And all these Republicans and conservatives coming out and saying, I would never. And all these people coming out and saying something like, tribalism, we just need to get past it. I saw somebody comment on my last video saying, tribalism is just, we just need to get around that, man, because we're better than that. And anybody who doesn't agree with me, I just don't like them. And it's bro, that's tribalism in itself. The fact that you have a belief and you dislike people who have an opposite or opposed belief to yours is literally what tribalism is. I understand in this world there are groups of people who play both sides and they run everything. I get that. We've talked about that several times. But if you're going to sit there and act like tribalism isn't a thing and that there aren't factions to all this and groups with different interests, you're retarded. That's exactly what is going on here. There are factions. Tribalism is a thing. And I don't care if you think America's a melting pot. We're a melting pot. Well, why are we a melting pot? Because we're a melting pot. Because America's a melting pot. Because a Jew came up with that term 100 years ago, and that's why we're a melting pot. I understand you don't see race, and I get that. And it's very admirable, because we were raised believing that. We were raised being taught that, and the past generations were too. And I love that. I love the idea of judging people based off their character and not on their skin color. I think that's a very admirable, good thing. And I don't hate anybody. I'm a Christian. I see everybody as God's children. I do. Including Jews. I know some people might not like to hear that, but we're all God's children. But I don't think that means I have to bend over backwards and get fucked in the ass while my country and my future gets flushed down the fucking toilet. That's not what that means. But I don't hate anybody. But the idea that you don't see race, that's admirable, that's great. But race sees you. You have to come to terms with the fact that there are people in this country who not only hate you because of your political beliefs, but they hate you because you're white. And no amount of saying we're a melting pot or that I don't see color is going to save you or your daughter when she gets stabbed in the neck while she's just trying to come home from her job from a pizza parlor. No amount of that is going to save people celebrating when your son gets shot in the neck in front of thousands of people. Did you know there are people who just liked the fact that Charlie Kirk died because he was white? They didn't even know anything about him, really. They looked for excuses later. Race is a thing. Tribalism is a thing. I know there's some people that have this universalism ideology of what humans are and what I'm a humanist and I'm for this and I'm for peace and I'm for no factions and no tribalism. You're a fucking idiot. And that's why nothing that you believe in will ever come true, because tribalism is real. It exists on many levels, not just race, but especially politics. And we have to acknowledge these things. And all these Republicans coming out saying, I'd rather lose. I'd rather have my society turn to shit and get lit on fire. And I'd rather my daughters be completely unsafe and my sons have no future than join forces with these neo-Nazis. Why? Because they say jokes? Why? Because when you tell them that Hitler was a bad guy, they say, can you explain why? What did he do exactly? And when they want to have a dialogue and ask questions, you get mad and you start foaming out the mouth like a fucking retarded dog. You look crazy. You look like a crackhead on the side of the street asking for $1. And then after you ask for $1, you start saying shit like, did you know Taylor Swift is my wife? I married a Taylor Swift, by the way. You look crazy to the younger generation. You look crazy to us. Because we're done. The idea, the message that Hitler was just a bad guy doesn't fucking work anymore. Do you not get that? And it's not just a small group of people. It's not just some fringe groups on the internet. It's a lot of people. Just to let you know, all right? So it's like this idea of shaming and saying shit like, well, we won't unify with you. We don't fucking want to unify with you either. Like at that point, if you are not really about it, and if you are not really about actually fixing this country and making it a safe place where we can start families and build our society, rebuild it, because essentially at this point, it's fallen. If you're not for that, we don't fucking want you on our side anyways. And I'm not saying I'm a Nazi. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I told you I was going to play devil's advocate, but I'll tell you one thing. I would rather join forces with a Nazi when it comes to this shit than somebody who would celebrate if me or my brothers died in front of the whole world. Would celebrate if my sister or my daughter got stabbed to death on a train. Would celebrate if anything bad happened to me or my family. Where do you think that leads to? It leads to this. This fuck Hitler society that we have leads to this, and it's not stopping. We've talked about earlier in past videos that things are escalating and people aren't becoming more moderate. They are being pushed to different sides, and there's different reasons for that. And I was actually going to make a whole video talking about that, and you know what? I probably still will, because it is an important topic. But this is important because of the things that have just happened the past few days. And the reason why it's important is because the older generations do not understand why Gen Z feels this way. They don't get it. And I'm here to explain to you why. The fuck Hitler society has led to this. It has led to the downfall of America. And all these people saying stuff like, I saw someone say something like, oh, we need to exclude these people that think like this, these young conservatives. We need to get rid of these young conservatives. We need to denounce them. And it's like, I hate to tell you this, motherfucker, you're 10 years too late. The future of this country is already headed in that direction. And I'm not calling for violence. I don't think violence is something that is even necessary, really. I know a lot of people said, well, what do you think all this leads to? It leads to more violence. It leads to bloodshed. And it's like, well, you're right. It does. But that doesn't mean you call for it. That doesn't mean you advocate for that stuff. That doesn't mean you fed post or want society to completely fall. Because there are a lot of people who've been commenting on my videos saying stuff like, oh, I can't wait for society to fall or for shit to hit the fan. I hope you fucking don't. And I understand a lot of you are just fucking LARPing because it sounds cool. It sounds like The Walking Dead except without zombies. Sounds cool, man. I'm totally ready for it. Are you? Do you go to the gym? Can you run a mile without passing out? Do you have a gun? Do you know how to use it? Have you been able to exercise with your gun? Because it's a big difference between shooting standing still and shooting and running around. I don't know if you know that. Do you have food? Do you know how to grow crops? Do you have water? I don't think a lot of you realize that if that were to happen, if society were to completely collapse, a majority of us would die, including myself, including you, the people you love in your life. A majority of them would not be alive. So I really hope you don't actually think that, and that's why I don't advocate for violence, because violence would escalate things even further, and it would destroy this nation overnight. It would. That's how bad things are. It could do that. But if that happens, a lot of people are going to die. And I don't want that. I want to save this country. I don't want people to be killed, even if they think differently than me. I don't want those people to be in positions of power over me because, quite frankly, a lot of them want me to be fucking executed because I'm white or because I'm saying the things that I'm saying now. But what did you all think this would lead to with the younger generation? Do you think they would just be echoing the same shit that you guys have been repeating over and over about somebody like Hitler, about something like World War II? We were the good guys. We were vindicated. We fought the bad guys. We won. Really? And I don't know. Like I said, this is something you could talk about for hours on end, over and over and over again. And basically what I'm getting at, the point I'm trying to make, is that the fuck Hitler society that we have has led to the problems that we have, regardless of what you think about that. That doesn't mean Hitler was a great person or a good person. That doesn't mean we should do the things that he advocated for. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is the very people that say that we're Nazis and that we're evil and that Hitler was bad are the same people that are single-handedly destroying this nation. And I understand things are nuanced and it's very gray. It's a very gray area. And it's not just black and white. But you can't even have a dialogue about this. Like, this video is probably going to get banned, in all honesty. Maybe not, but it's definitely going to get shadow banned. And that's what I have to say about all this. That's what I have to say about what this stuff means, what this stuff leads to. And I know a lot of you disagree. And if you made it this far into the video, and if you do disagree, explain why. Let me know. Prove me wrong. Tell me how everything I've said is completely just unreasonable and incoherent and makes no sense. Because as far as I can tell, it's just basic pattern recognition. And there's no amount of bullshit that you can say or peddle that's going to convince people from what they see. You can only do that to a certain group of people, and you can only do it for so long. But if you do disagree, let me know. Explain why. And let me know in general what you think. Let me know what you think of the texts. Let me know what you think of what I said. And I know the past couple videos I've been making have been kind of serious, and I'm not trying to be serious all the time. I'm trying to have fun too. I'm trying to be funny and just try to make lighthearted jokes about all these things, but it's kind of hard sometimes. And I'm not here to doom or blackpill. You already know how I feel about that. But I'm just here to explain what I think about all this, and thank you if you did watch. And if you learned anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Rumble. But thank you, though, so much for the support and the love that this channel's been getting. It means a lot. I don't know if I'm going to have another video come out this weekend, but next week I will have some more stuff for you. So until then, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening and hearing me out. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you, and I will see you all later.